Hey, all work, no pleasure. I ain't here to make friends, big stepper. Hey, bad guy, Heath Ledger. Ready for wherever, I'll be front and center. Don't fly too close.
Alright guys, what is up? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are gonna go for a little ride. So let's get to it. Hope you guys all had a good day. Hope everything went well. Yeah. That feeling never gets old, y'all. Never gets old. So, if you did not know, I am Gordo. Hello and welcome. This is my channel where I post a variety of things. Things I'm most passionate are going to be motorcycles and BMX, but I also venture outside of that, do some rock climbing, do some snowboarding, scuba diving, and whatever else catches my interest. So if those things are not yet on the channel, they will be. So click through some of the videos and see if there's anything you like, but otherwise, welcome. That is a person lying on the ground, apparently catching some Z's. So I recently posted a video of me showing you guys the city, and in that video I just had a light tone of music and just the visuals. There was no talking. So this time I figured we would try and change it up a little bit. So I'm gonna try and add a little bit of commentary and see how that goes. Coming in hot on this corner. Let me slow down a little bit. So it is a beautiful Saturday evening and I chose to spend it on the bike. I guess I could have asked if anyone else wanted to ride, but I figured everyone would either be out or home. So I took the anti-social route today. I ride at all times of the day, but my favorite time to ride is in the evening. Why is that? Well, one, because hypothetically there's less traffic and there's more people in the houses, with the exception of weekends, which are the most dangerous time to ride at night because of the drunk drivers. Aside from that, the roads are relatively empty. I enjoy the open roads. If I can get into the back country, I will do that. I enjoy the interstate. I don't know what it is exactly. One, the traffic's all going the same direction. Two, the speeds are higher. So there's those two things going for it. But yeah, I don't mind the interstate driving. And the city driving, I mean, I guess this is just what I got sometimes. Oh, big bump. Not always have the luxury of riding out into the country or hitting the interstate and going. So the city laps it is. And that's what we do. But nonetheless, no matter where I'm going, I enjoy the two wheels. Or three if that's what you're into. But yeah, I really enjoy my motorcycle. This is a 2019 Harley RoadGlide Special that has been turned into a CVO replica. Bike has been tastefully modified, and if that is something that interests you, I can put those details down in the description or make another video. But today is just a cruise around the city and a little bit of commentary. So we'll see how it goes. So you can come along for the journey. And I appreciate you. As you can see by some of the decorations on the house that it is Halloween time, which is my favorite time of the year. Spooky season. With the good old Wisconsin weather, usually the bikes have to get put away in mid-October or early November. So we shall see how late I get into the season. There was a year where I was actually able to ride into January, which was just wild. It was cold, don't get me wrong, but there was no snow on the ground, so I threw some pajama pants underneath the jeans, threw some long socks on, doubled up on the gloves, and we were out riding around. I actually went and did a quick zip around the town on Christmas Day because there was no snow. It was just cold. I think it was like 30 degrees. So what's up, y'all? What up? Another thing with that is when you're riding in the off season, that normal drivers in cars, trucks, and everything else on the road, they're not looking for motorcycles during that time of the year. So you just have to be really careful with that. But for anyone else that rides motorcycles, you know that it's not you that you need to watch out for. It's everybody else on the road. Because you are the only thing that you can control. You cannot control other motorists and what they decide to do or do not do. Do not do what they decide not to do. So the goal is always be safe and have fun. And then we lean towards one or the other and try and stay in the middle. Today I'm going to tell you a story about how I fell in love with motorcycles. And it started when I was about 4 years old, and I had a friend whose name was Eddie. And Eddie's parents gifted him with a Honda CRF50. If you don't know what that is, it is a very, very small dirt bike for children. It's got 3 gears and no clutch, but it is a ton of fun. And on that bike he had training wheels, and after a while I was watching him learn how to ride it, and I asked him and his dad, because I was not allowed to have a motorcycle, I asked his dad, I was like, hey, do you mind if I learn with you guys? And he was all for it. So I hopped on, he explained what shifting was and the throttle and the brake, which was the most important thing. He explained where all that was, and I hopped on and I started going, and everything changed. My heart was racing, my mind was racing, I was so excited. I was yanking on the throttle, I was swerving and turning, and I knew that this thing would be something that I loved. And we kept riding that little dirt bike through the years. The training wheels came off relatively quickly because we both knew how to already ride two-wheeled bikes. And there was a small field with a gravel trail right down the street from our house. So we would go there and ride the dirt bikes after school until we grew older and we were about age 10. And then Eddie got rid of the Honda CRF 50. And it was a sad day. But then he got a Honda CRF 85, and man, oh man, that thing was fast. Faster than anything I had ever ridden. And that bike had a clutch and normal gears and a two-stroke engine. So if you guys aren't familiar with two-stroke engines, and I am no mechanic, a two-stroke engine has what's called a power band. So all engines have a power band, which is just the torque and the motor and how all that works. But a two-stroke has a very aggressive power band. So as you're getting on it, it opens up the RPMs and there's a burst of power. So doing that over and over was just addicting. It was such a blast. So we were on that bike for several years, and at this point I was still unable to have my own motorcycle or moped or anything for that matter. So I continued to just hang out with Eddie and his motorcycles. Obviously we were friends for more than that. Like, we had been friends for a very long time. But we went from the Honda CRF 50, and his parents got him CRF 85, and we rode that for several years. And then he got, in high school, a 250, which was even faster. It was great, and we still were using the same field, which maybe I will take you to. I will take you to the field. This is great. I don't know if you'll be able to see the field, but I will take you to the field where we rode dirt bikes. But there was on the field or in the field. It was used like for an industrial park, for industrial buildings, and there was a large mound of dirt, and we turned it into a jump. So we would take turns riding the dirt bike and hitting the jump. And the one day, Eddie got a little too overzealous, and he actually overshot the jump and landed on the flat bottom. And this was a pretty big mound of dirt. It was well over our heads at the age of like 13, so it had to be like 8 to 10 feet tall. And the gap was 3 dirt bike lengths because I measured it out. So like 8 to 10 feet tall, and then 12 feet or 3 dirt bike lengths, and then the landing. So he overshot that and landed on the complete flat bottom, which was, it was a bad day. He got wrecked. He knocked the wind out of himself. The dirt bike got a little mangled up, but it ended up being okay. But yeah, we hung out all the time and did all sorts of things together, but one of the things we always came back to was his dirt bikes. You guys aren't going to be able to see it, but there's a gravel trail over here, and this is a popo. There's a gravel trail here. This is where we learned how to ride the 50. And then the industrial park with the mound is over here. So I'm going to see if it's still here. And that is a popo right there. So this is the field where we learned how to ride. And the mound is still here, just deteriorated. Yeah. So it is still there. And then this is the field where we would ride. And our neighborhood was just on the other side of these trees. So this is the field we would come into to ride. This is super cool. And people apparently come here and do lots of burnouts. So I wonder if that Mount Pleasant officer, or whoever it is going to come back this way. So let's see if this is that officer and he just turned around. Nope. So he carried on. I don't know where he went. Where'd you go, you little sneakster? But carrying on with my story, the Honda CRF 50, the Honda CRF 85, and then he got a 250, and we basically rode all those in that field over there. And when we were in high school, we hung out at a different field owned by my buddy Mario, and his parents owned a dealership. And they had plenty of land behind the dealership because they were still expanding, but for a year or two we were able to ride our dirt bikes on that property. So that was also a ton of fun. Some years later after that, we actually got our first indoor dirt bike track. And I didn't have a bike to ride, and there were sections there that were too difficult for me, so I actually just watched whenever we went. That building has since been leveled, sad face, but then we graduated and Eddie bought himself a Harley, and it was a 2008 Harley Nightster, and he did some modifications to that bike and let me ride it, and I absolutely fell in love with it. So whenever I saw him, I was like, Ed, let me take the bike out for a little bit. He'd be like, yeah, whatever. And I would take the bike out for like an hour or two. And I remember the first time I rode that Harley on the road, and my heart was just racing again, like the very first time I hopped on the bike on that little CRF 450. And I knew I had to be back at a certain time because it was his bike and I didn't want to keep him from it, but man, it was such a blast to ride that. So I saved up some money and I asked him if he would sell it, and he said no. So I just held on to the money and I kept asking him, and of course I could have bought my own bike at that time, like a different bike that wasn't mine, but I wanted that one, and I don't know why. Like, I could have bought that same exact bike, but that's the one I wanted. So the third or fourth time I asked Eddie, is like, hey man, would you sell the bike? I got the money, like whatever you want. And he said no. So then I bought a Mitsubishi GST 1997. It was a front wheel drive, 2-door, turbocharged car. It was not fast by any means, so don't get ahead of yourself. It was very slow, but I liked it a lot. And then sold the bike to my buddy Matt, so I harassed him. And after a season or two, he actually sold me the bike. And then it was mine, and I picked it up, filled the tank, and I rode for what must have been hours. And I kept forgetting that I didn't have to bring the bike back, that it was finally mine. And I had that bike for several years, and I did absolutely love that bike. Eddie bought himself another motorcycle, a Harley Ultra Classic. I believe it was a 2006. So I tried that out. It didn't give me the same feeling as the Sportster, but it was very, very comfortable. A nice plush seat. It had a fairing that blocked the wind like this one does. Floorboards. Heel toe shifter. And the best thing it had, I just set that car alarm off back there. That's funny. Sorry, distracted. Heel toe shifter, fairing, and the best thing it had was a radio. It had speakers. And boy oh boy was I hooked at that point, because I was putting AirPods and other headphones in my helmet to listen to music, which got old very quickly, because nothing gave me quite that feeling of music like no headphones over the roar of the engine of any motorcycle I was on. And then the headphones would pinch into my ears from the compression of the helmet. But having speakers, boy oh boy, I was booming music as soon as I figured out how to hook up to that aux cord. But no feeling was quite the same as being able to put music through the speakers and just connect to an aux cord. So I gave him back that bike, and I kept my Harley Sportster for several years. And I got tons of compliments on the bike because it had a custom paint job. It was fire engine red. I put some white walls on it. It had 12-inch ape hangers way up. Super comfortable for me. And it was pretty quick. It was a fairly light bike. I'm not a big dude, so the bike moved really fast. Super, super nimble. I'd be at gas stations or restaurants or car meets or bike meets, and I'd get tons of compliments on the bike. I loved it. But I knew that it was time to move up, which is what I did. So a few years back, I bought this. This gorgeous, gorgeous monstrosity of a beast, of a machine. 2019 Harley RoadGlide Special. The previous owner went all out with modifications. And when I went to look at the bike, my buddy Mario, who runs the Indian dealership, showed me the list of modifications, showed me the bike, walked me around, gave me the keys. And I was like, all right, man, I'll be back. He's like, okay, well, if you don't take it, these guys will. And there were 2 or 3 other people waiting for me to finish with my test ride. So this was my first time on a road glide. And for those of you that don't know about Harley RoadGlides, and I don't know what other motorcycles do this, but the fairing, which blocks the wind in front of me, does not move. It is stationary, fixed to the bike. So when I turn the handlebars, the front of the motorcycle doesn't turn. This large plastic piece, it's stationary and hooked to the frame. So that took a little bit of getting used to, but maybe like 5 minutes or so, and then I was good to go. Took the bike out for about half an hour. Fell in love. It was super, super smooth. I hooked up my music to the radio, and there's speakers in the fairings in the front, and in the back I have speakers in the lids for my saddlebags. The engine's got a ton of power. Rides super smooth. Cruise control. The whole 9 yards. This bike is meant to go cross country for sure. And if you spend any time on motorcycles, the minute you hop on one of these things, you can tell why. So I did end up going back to the dealership, and I was like, yeah man, this is the one, I'll take it. Signed the paperwork, hopped on the bike, and I must have rode for, again, what felt like hours. I was like, there's no way this is my bike. But it was, and it is, and I absolutely love it. And since we're so close now, I'll just take you past the Harley dealership. So my buddy Mario runs the Indian dealership here in Racine, and he's actually the one that sent me this bike through text. He was like, hey man, you interested in this? And I was like, I'll come look at it, but I was really hoping for a white one. He's like, just come and ride it and you'll fall in love with this motorcycle. So that is what I did. And this will be my second or third year. I actually don't remember. Is this my second year? I bought it at the end of the season, which would be about now, September. I'll have a picture. I'll put a picture up. And there she is, the Indian dealership. And when I got there, the bike was parked right in that little parking lot. One of the guys had flown in, apparently, from another state for the bike, which Mario advised him not to do because he hadn't even put a deposit on it. But this is the Indian dealership here, still alive and thriving. But yeah, the guy came from another state and flew in for the bike, and it was a sad day for him because I had first dibs and I took it, and I never looked back. And I have had a blast on this bike ever since. So that is my motorcycle story. So I hope you enjoyed it. Every time I hop on this bike, it feels like the first time. Every single time. I'm just filled with joy. I don't even need a destination. You just hop on it and you go, and you're just one with the bike and open to the elements, the wind blowing. If you're not wearing a helmet, then through your hair. If you're bald, over your head. Unless you've ridden a motorcycle, I just don't know how else to describe the joy you get from these machines, but it's indescribable. So I hope you guys enjoyed this ride as much as I did, which you didn't because you're not on a motorcycle. But I hope that I could give you guys some of my experiences and share those experiences with you and those feelings that I had, and hopefully that was enough. But otherwise, I highly encourage you to get a motorcycle and see how it feels, and you'll thank me later. Peace.